Welcome everybody to another CTC software webinar. We're going to be doing a series of using our tools for an actual site design. This is part 1 of, I believe, 7, and it's going to focus on just existing conditions and some of the tools we can use to help with that. My name is Tony Crick. I'm the Civil Product Manager here at CTC Software. And if you're viewing this live and want to see it again, you can watch it on our YouTube channel. It should be up in a few days. And don't miss another one. You don't want to miss another one. You go to our website and our events page to sign up for future webinars. And as always, if you have any questions as we go along, you're watching this live, please enter them into the questions panel and I'll try to get to them during the presentation. Otherwise, I will certainly review them after. So with that, let's get started. So our CIM tools, we have productivity tools in our CIM Project Suite, and they're intended for the everyday Civil 3D user creating design and production drawings. It will also work in the last 4 versions of Civil 3D back to 2020. Keep in mind when Civil 3D does upgrade here shortly, we will no longer support version 2020. So if you haven't already upgraded to at least 2021, I highly recommend that. So in this series of webinars, we're going to show some of the ways that CTC CIM project tools can be used, saving time and making your workflow more efficient. And it will also allow for quick drawing data updates when things change. So we're going to take a real land development project and we're going to explore some of the tools that CTC offers to help us get the job done. So if you're viewing this for the first time, you're not familiar with our tools, what are the CIM project tools? It's a suite of tools intended for the everyday design production. As you can see from the ribbon screenshot there, we have different tools for different parts of your design. So we have survey, we have some piping tools, we have grading tools, we have our corridor tools. In our general tab, we have one of our most popular tools, which I'm going to show today, Label Genie. And we also have Clash Seeker, our newest tool. And we have a data wizard tool for helping us create legends, which we're also going to touch on today, and some quantity takeoffs with that. Then we have tools that help us generate sheets when it gets done. So they're there to set up and automate time-consuming tasks. Everything is built into Civil 3D for consistency and familiarity. And we don't have any proprietary files. So everything that we create in Civil 3D with our tools can be shared and will stay with the drawing. So why CIM Project Suite of tools? They're going to help us save time during the design and production process, which in turn will help save money. And we can create our templates to maintain consistency and avoid surprises at the end when it's time to create production drawings. And new team members can get up to speed very quickly with the templates that you save, and it's pretty much plug and go from there. And the easy interface of our tools will help to flatten that learning curve. So with that, let's jump into drawing and get to it. Okay, we can see this, I hope. Yes, I see that it's up. So I talked about this site. Here's what we got. We've got a huge, hang on a second, let me turn my autosave off so that stops happening. Well, we'll put up with it. So we've got a 100+ acre site within this boundary right here. In here, here's the site. This is what it looks like prior to development of our site. So what did we get for our site? How did we start here? Let me give you a little bit of history here. Let me turn off that background. So from an outside source, we got this surface for it. Let me turn that on, show you the surface we got. It's a very large surface. So take a second for these contours to load. So you can see it's a very large surface, and I've actually clipped it out here to encompass a little less of our site. It's very large. But again, it's from an aerial. I believe it wasn't very accurate, so to speak, before we got started. And what we're going to do is we're going to put a connecting road here, which is already built in, and a connecting road here. I can show you that on the existing survey. So the existing conditions, we're going to connect at this road right here, and we're going to connect at this road right here. Both of them have stubs currently built into them for this development to go in here. So let me get that out of the way again. Okay. So with that, since we knew we had to connect here, survey crews went out and they shot the curb lines for this. So what I got here from them was just the points. So I got just these points. Let me blow those up just a little bit so we can see them. So we got just these top of back curb points, no line work to speak of. So no survey figures. Starting basically from scratch, I'll show you kind of the hard way to do it, but nonetheless, a pretty efficient way to do it. So with that, I'm going to use Auto Grader up here to grade this road in. So we have a better facsimile of the road that's here. You can see our contours aren't the best. So I created a series of feature lines at the back of curb along here using the point data that we have. And that's what Auto Grader needs for us to do its thing. So with that, I took and I created a surface of just the roads. So let me turn this one off. And like I said, there's nothing proprietary, and I made this surface using Auto Grader, which I'll show you in a second here. Let me just turn that off and turn this one on, just to show you a history of what we got going here. So I'll turn that one on. So Auto Grader let me create a surface for just the roads, which I then pinned into the aerial view, and I made it this composite view. So that's the one we'll be working with, is our composite surface. So let me turn this off and turn on the composite surface. Oops. So it doesn't really take that long for AutoGrader to do this out. I'm not going to grade it because it is such a large surface. It will take some time, but I'll show you the steps I took to get there. So AutoGrader's right here. It's one of our more popular tools and can be very time-saving. And in some cases, and as the case here, can be used in lieu of corridors. So what I did was, the first thing I did after I made them, I created one family with this top back, called it top back all. And what that did was I selected the feature lines right here. Let me close that and zoom out so we can see this. Let me zoom out. So I included all these top back feature lines right here. These are original feature lines I created again. So top back curb existing, I created those. So that's the genesis of using the tools. So with that, I had this one here, and I actually had saved that from this curb, this barrier curb layout, which you see in the little preview down here. And I did that by coming here. First thing we do is we can go through our options. For those of you that haven't seen this before, we'll do just a real quick once through of some of the AutoGrader settings and other things in there. But if you need to learn more about it, we also have other videos on it. So I set my template path right here, and for this one, I just dropped it in this folder right here. At least I think I did. We'll look. And then some of the things we can do for our defaults. We can set what our feature line style should be. And we have a number of them here, and they work on our hierarchy. And the default feature line layer, a default site, which I set to none. But actually, I'm going to put it there just to show you. So we have this site, and then the layer that we want our boundary to go on, if we choose to include one. And then some of the other typical settings that we have for our surfaces. Let me say OK out of there. Oh, and the precisions too, just to set the precisions we want things displayed at. So we also have our help and our videos, where you can get a link to this one. If you need help or support, you contact us here. And I'm going to push the about here because we just released version 24 for 0.5. So if you haven't got notice of it and you haven't updated, you can go right here and just update it. Any tool will have this. It doesn't have to be an AutoGrader. So there's some pretty cool things that we did specifically with AutoGrader. And I encourage you to check out the release notes and see what's changed. So with that, I come in here and I had set this already. So I pulled it in and I made some minor adjustments how this went. So just to see how that was going to go with my feature lines, I just included everything. So it says we got 17. What I did was I grabbed it by layer right here. So that gave me my 17. So that's every back of curb line. I'm not, like I said, I'm not going to run it because this is such a large surface. And so after I did that, what I noticed was some of these, no matter what I did, some of these, my other feature lines that is creating, my child feature lines that it created, were not in the right order. So I had to create a couple of other families to include the feature lines in the orientation that I wanted them. And this really doesn't take long to do. So what I did, I made one for the eastbound on the north side. I made one for on the right-hand side for the northbound. another eastbound on the west side of the development, eastbound on the east side, and so on. And then I just, to make it look a little better, I didn't clean this up much. I created some crown ones. Let me go back in here for the settings. So I made a copy down here just so we could see where these things come from. So what do we do? So the first thing we do, we can do this one of two ways. We can select just a single line, which I did for this one, to try a rerun to see what would happen if I did. And I found out that it took a very long time with the surface to regen, so I didn't do it because it's working in the composite, so I didn't. So let me cancel out of that again. And I included that in the composite right here. So the other ones, I made the separate surface. And I mentioned we can do that right in the drawing. So we do that right here. I'm just going to make just to show you, I'm just going to call it demo today. I'll just call it that, and we have settings, how we want it to come by default as we're creating the style, or the surface. I mean, is if I say create right here, and then I come and close. What I mentioned before is our tools don't have anything proprietary, so everything comes right here. You see the surface that I just made. I am going to, in fact, delete that out of there because we're not going to use that today. So let's open AutoGrader back up and get through a couple of the other settings before we move on. So I'm going to open this one back up to show you. So with this one, I just picked one, as I said. If I'd have done this right here, and I pick this right here, it says 17. So when it creates feature lines, as I said, right here we tell what we want it to land on. So they landed on the layers I chose right here, and the style, it could be anything. If you wanted to change it, this is the default. Then attach it to a site. And one of our new features is we can give our feature lines custom names. So that kind of helps with organizing where things are. That's in 24.5, the newest in 24.5. So we did that. And I came in here before I made the things, and I said, which surface did I want it to go into? Again, you can do it in either pane, and then the type of break line, the standard 3 right from Civil 3D, and then how do I want them to go? Before, non-grader, non-auto-grader break lines, or after. So I put them before non-auto-grader break lines, which makes them take precedent. And then this comes right from this interface right here. And then, so I can choose which break lines. I mentioned which break lines we want to include in the surface. So I put them all in. And we have more supplementing factors and weeding factors, just like we have natively. And then boundary, do we want to make a boundary? Do we not want to make a boundary? And then what layer is it on, which comes from our default. So let me cancel that. And then we can order these two when we move these around. If I were to take this, for example, and move it down, we'll see how our little preview here flip-flopped. So it said the parent is there. That's not where we wanted the parent, and that's mislabeled. It should be top back. But anyway, so some of the things we can do there, and then we can copy one of those families down if we want to use some of the same settings and so on. And we have some other settings over here to create PVIs at the split points. I have that checked for all of them, which is going to make PIs right at the same place as the parent line. So let me cancel that, go through a few of the other ones. So if I wanted to, I said I had some saved there, which I do. So I just pulled from here. I did save to those. You probably would want to save these to a central location for everybody, put them on a network or something to that effect. So you can get them, and then the save takes you to the same place. This button, the edit, does the same thing as me just double clicking right here where I can change anything and then save them. So if you did all that and you got everything squared away, you can tell it to run all and we'll do it all at once. Again, I'm not going to do that today. So that's how we got to that point of it. So what are some of the things we wanted to do today? So that's AutoGrader. Oh, I wanted to show you this. I threw just some crown lines in here. I didn't get shots of the crown. I'm assuming a 2%. And I didn't run them all the way because it's really not important for what we're doing here. But it's this one right here. So to show you how I changed the parent line, you see how that highlighted right there. So it became a feature line, and after I ran it, I could select this as my parent feature line. So come off here, 2% at halfway across, roughly 13.5 feet, I believe it was, from edge to edge. And that created this crown right here, which gave me pretty good looking surface from that point. So let me close this. I'm just going to cancel out of there and close. Okay, so moving on. How can we use the tools other than that to help us get the job done? So for that, I'm going to leverage Label Genie right here. As I said, one of our more popular tools, saving lots of time. So we're going to label those contours, and yes, you can do them natively, but it does have our limitations. If I come over here and I come to here and I want to do my surface labels and I pull this up, we can do everything we have in here the same as in Label Genie, just like we can here, with a few more bells and whistles, which I'll show you right now. So if we had to do that natively, that's going to take a little bit of time. With Label Genie, we can pull this up, and I have a series of templates, not here, but I have lots of other templates if you would like them. If you don't have to build your own, please let me know. I'll get those to you. As long as we're doing everything consistently, we can load those templates, and we can even load them as just a jumping off point here. So let's label these contours. So it's already set up to go here. So some of our options to label things, just because you may not know, we have all of these label types we can do. So we're down here in this surface contour labels, as I mentioned, same as natively. So with that, then I only have one anchor object with that. If I chose something else, general notes, for example. Come on, general notes. I get more options of what I can label. So now you see that things changed there. So if I wanted to load that one, I could just change it manually, but I want to show you how to get them from the template right there. And if I did do something here, I could save for future use, as I did with this one. And I wouldn't have to do all this setup. So that's loaded back in there, and we have our vertices. How do we want our surface labels to go? Now I'm going to do all of the contours on here, this whole site. So if you wanted to do fewer, you could limit that down. But what I've found is that this does this so quickly that it doesn't really matter. And so I'm going to do it horizontal. We can do it on vertical grids. We can do it horizontal grids. So what that's going to do, it's going to go straight across every 200 feet. It's going to put another row. And that seemed to work pretty well for this one. Again, you certainly could try some of these other ones. We have intervals along the contours, midpoints, start, end, point of intersections, and you could use these in conjunction too as well if you so chose. So I'm going to leave that set at 200. I think you find when you're doing this that when you find something that works well, you can make a template and just plug and go, as I mentioned before. So with that, I need a surface. And I can do that one of two ways. I can do that here with the composite by picking it on the screen. So if I clear that to show you how we got there, I can come and grab it, and I get it right there. So new for 24/5, we also have this right here. So if we know the name, we can sure pull it in right here. If we, for some reason, want to do them all, you could just do an asterisk right there. And we can do that here too. If I did an asterisk here to get all of them, I hit the regen. Now it says we've got 3, which is all 3 of them. But if I only wanted to include the one, we have another option here to exclude. So I can start excluding these right here. I can also type it in right here. So a lot of different ways to get at that. Like I said, this is new for 24.5. So let's do it this way. Let's grab the site right there. The surface, I mean. I'll hit OK right here. And I'm going to tell it to add. So this is going to take a little bit of time. Bear with me. This will take about a minute, but we're adding 1,041 labels. And to do that natively, if you did it by line, however you did it, if you told it to go by intervals, and then you'd have a bunch of cleanup time. And I'm not saying there won't still be some cleanup time or maybe adding a few labels here, but this is going to save you a significant amount of time. And I think you get a better, cleaner labeling layout of them, which we'll see here in a second. So what it's doing here in the background, it's going through, it's reading all of the contours. You can see it functioning on the bottom in my status line down there. So it's reading all of those contours and finding where to put those inside of my drawing. And it's only going to label what I have shown here. It is, in fact, reading all of the contours that are outside of there to see if they're included or not. And in a second or two, a few more seconds, we'll be done with it. If we changed surfaces right here, for instance, and we had delete previously, it would take all of those other ones out and add them. So if I did this to the existing surface first, and then I made my composite, I could change my surface only, click my delete previously created, and it would take all of those out too. So it searched outside of my actual contour area, and it's telling me that it found a couple. No big deal, no warning, it still does it. Another second and they'll be in there, and there they are. So you can see it came across here, and every time and I only included it on for my major contours as well. I should have noted that in the time constraints we have. That would have taken a little bit longer, but these are 1 foot contours. We can easily figure that out, and we got some pretty good steep contouring here to see that. So we see it's 200 feet between our sets of contours from here to here. So pretty quickly we've got that done. As I said, might need some cleanup, some more additional stuff. In the end, we see here it crossed. So you might want to erase a couple of those out. As so, and they're just Civil 3D things, so they behave the exact same way. I can move those along the line. I must not have gotten it picked right, but it's the same functionality. So that's the cleanup I was talking about. So as I said, we got this survey in. I must have the background. Yeah, let me get that, turn that XREF off. Let me unload that for now. Okay, so plainly what we got was, let me turn off my surface too, as we don't need that anymore for this operation. So I turn that off. And now I come in here, and for this probably initial platting, existing conditions, apparently those are hanging in there too. I think I can turn those off. There. The markers for the contour labels. So we got the survey. We got some trees got surveyed here too for removal on the site. We got some other removal areas here, some hatching of some tree clear and grub areas, and a whole bunch of trees down here. But what we probably need to do is label this outside plat. So Label Genie again, right here, and two, with that, you can do that natively, but what you can't do with it is you can't do multiple. If they're not polylines, you can't do that natively. Not all at once. But with Label Genie, we can, and I've got one loaded. I thought I had one. I think it's this one. Let's try this one. Boundary all. Let me just load that. Don't save. We always get that little warning there to remind you, hey, you made some changes to that you really like. So maybe you want to save it. I guess I wanted to do the line one. So I made one too for polylines, which we can do. You can do that natively. You can do it here. But one of the real things I mentioned is when we talk about saving time if things change, if your label style changed, for instance, all I would have to do is open Label Genie back up and change the label style, and everything will update. So I came in here and I'm doing lines. So I'm going to do just the lines first. So we've got this plat has some lines and some arcs on it. So I just picked it by layer. I say okay. Then you come in here, you set your formatting. And this all comes right from the template. As long as everything's consistent, this is what you get. So I've set this one. I actually want that one. So I want to do that one. So bearing and distance with a 140 text. And some other things we can do up here too with other labeling styles. Things we need to label. So with that, we should be good to go. and we just tell it to go. And I'm going to say yes right here. So again, too, we could do additional drawings and XREF drawings, lots of different things we could do with it. And another advantage to Label Genie is I get it at the midpoint of these lines. By default, it's going to land at the midpoint of your lines. If we do this natively, it's going to go wherever we pick. So it's going to go right there. And then that's the wrong label. So I have to, if I did them all like that, I would have to come and erase it and individually and come and redo it. But it puts them at the midpoints to start if you needed to move those around. Some of these, for instance, need a little pull it away a little bit so we can read it better. And then you would probably have to add your crow's feet too, however you wanted to do it. So then I can do this other little plat for this residence right here. And I could have done that too, but it might need a different label style. Maybe we don't want it as large. So I can come in here, and I actually made a template for that too to try to save some time. I believe it was this one. So let me load that one. Don't save. Don't want that checked here. So it's good in our segments. And this is where we select what we want. If it was polylines, I would pick all that. We will cover that. I don't know if we'll get to that yet today, trying to keep this to an hour. So let me just add those. We've got a little different label style there that I used, which came with the template. So I came with the template, and it's a little smaller. Like I said, if I wanted to change that to match these other ones for whatever reason, again, just open Label Genie back up. It's already ready to go. I can just change the formatting right here, and it will tell me that it updated. So very quick, pretty simple boundary plat for this one. We get a little more complicated when we get to the actual site plat, which is this one right here. So again, I can do the same thing here. So Label Genie, the plat got drawn, the proposed plat for what's going to go on inside of that development. And I've got it set to arcs right now. Oh, I used it to label these adjacent plats over here. So that's the other thing they came. I can pick the layer. But let me do that for the main proposed through roads right here. Oops, did I say polylines? Oh, it's not an arc. Okay, I have to have arcs. Let me delete that. Let's try it again. I'll do it by layer. That way I'll get them all. So 41 it's going to put on there. Come to my formatting tab. That's all. Probably how we want it. And I can say add layers. And again, natively, you would have to come and pick these one at a time. That's the wrong layer, but that's okay. And then I can do the same thing for the lines. And you can save a template for this. Like I said before, if you've got new people, you're onboarding somebody, you just point them in the direction to get it. if they don't have a feel for it. But for this one, I can just change it. And I can do the same thing, grab it by layer. So 98 segments it's going to label. And again, I need to make sure this is checked. I think I had, because we had arcs selected before, it nullified that. So that's why I say if you saved it to lines and you dumped it in there, you wouldn't have to do all that. So we'll just check the same thing. I'll just let it go on that same layer, and I'll tell it to do it. So now our initial, I don't know why those, that's a polyline. Oh, well, let's do that. I'll show you that too. So our polyline, we can do the same thing. So I'll just open Label Genie back up again, and I'll select polylines. And again, I'll do it by layer. I can pick it individually if I wanted, in case I drew some other polylines in there for that plat. 14 labels. And now this, I forgot to check my curves, I think, like I was talking about before, because it was lines. So let me open it back up. Here's how quick and easy you can fix that. So I just have to select curves right there as well. And now it said it's going to add 13 and update these 14. So again, if I had pulled these off to the side, this one, for instance, I'll just show you. Pull that one out. So I got that in a place where we can more easily read it. And again, you would probably want your crow's feet on the end of there that you would have to place manually. But if I come back to Label Genie and I tell it to relabel, you'll notice that that will not move. So once I get it in a good spot, a place I like it, it's not going to move right there. So we got this whole, the proposed plat labeled. Apparently I got some manual ones that I had added before. I don't want those to go away right now. So those came from the right-of-way plat right there. Actually, I did it with Label Genie, but they're on a different layer, so that's why they didn't go away. So we saved a lot of time right there. Now let's go back to our existing survey right here, and what we typically might need to create right here is maybe a removal plan. So with this, we have all these trees, and these have been surveyed. All of these, and we haven't had a actual tree survey done yet, but we know these are all 6+ trees that need to be removed. And maybe we need to create a count for how many exactly trees we have, what our clear and grub areas are, and we can do that with Data Wizard. But first, let me clean up some of these points the way they're displayed right there. Let me move that one to the top, and I'll turn off also my curb shots. We don't need those anymore. So let me push that one up. So let me say okay. So all I have is my symbols. So here's my tree symbols. And all of these need to be removed along with clearing and grubbing and some of these brushy areas, which we saw before from the aerial. So then with Data Wizard, we can do the same thing. We have templates set up again to create these. And I believe I created a template. I did. So let me load that. I'll show you how we got there, but let me load it in there. So again, with Data Wizard right here for creating quantity takeoffs, legends, We have all kinds of stuff. I'm just going to run through quickly what our options are. Again, with our templates, you would want to save those into a central location for others to get at. Otherwise, everything else is the same right here. One improvement we did make to our data wizard was with our custom descriptions. So it comes with all these to be checked. So all of those trees are just COGO points. They're not really in a survey database, so they came in just as COGO points, which is what we have right here. And so how do we want those displayed? With my template, I got these filtered out. So the top back curb points aren't showing up, and neither are the trees that are down here, which are not to be removed. This is in a preservation area. And I'm going to say to combine like items, which if I didn't do that, or if I didn't do that, we would see all of them, but you see it filtered out. So it found 10,001 COGO points, but we're only seeing 332. So then too, I did that with our hatches, and that's for our tree clear and grub area. So let's move on. Did I do that right? It's going to show the tree line, polylines. Let me select that. Oh, I do have it selected. Okay, I didn't think I did. Okay, so let's move on. So our COGO points, so what are we getting? Here's this telling us what we're going to get. This is our object. The COGO points, it's only these TRD 6+. If I backed up here and I went back to this and I took off my TRD and I said, okay, you see how that point jumps right there. So I come to next and I hit this again, and that would be okay too, because I wouldn't show them if I didn't want to. So I could click that off right here. So I'm not going to get those. And then our custom descriptions too. Anything you enter in here will be available later. So I added this remove trees. You might want that as a portion of your table. And then hatches, I'm including this hatch right here for the trees. Tells us what it's getting, and here's our area in square feet. So I added a note here. I don't know why parcels is on there. Let me back up and turn that off. I must have accidentally checked that when I went to get my polylines. So we don't need that. And it wouldn't have printed anyway, so it doesn't matter, or come in our table. So here's what we're getting there, and then our polylines. So I'm getting these two building lines, and I need to include those if I want separate areas for those. So it's this main house building right here and this outbuilding right here. So that's the area of removal that might be important when somebody's bidding on it. So these headings up here, they came from this selection box right here. And we have a number of things we can choose. And you see the ones we chose. We will get to some of those other functions as we move along in the series here. So with that, I can say next. And here's my settings for how I want it to appear. And this will take a little bit of the first time you do it, iterative process to get this set how you want it. But the graphics, and these are all just pulling from the tables that I have inside of my drawing. So I'm going to use this one. I don't have one set up for model space right now, but just to show you what you get, and you can do this preliminarily. We also can dump this out to an Excel spreadsheet where we can do some more things that you can do inside of an Excel sheet, which we will cover a little further down in the series. But let me just hit finish right here. And it's going to be very small because it's not set up for it. So let me just scale that up so we can see it. You can see what it does. 2100, 100. So that's what it looks like. So clearly our scaling is off for that if we wanted our picture, and that's okay for right now, because we didn't really want to show that, but you see our tree line there, and this is just a regular table right from your annotation tab in your tables. And so with that, I can do anything I want to it. I can adjust these however I see fit. If I didn't build that correctly into my table, I can move these to middle center, for example. Make this look how I wanted. I could do that for all of them. But so here's what we're getting now. There's 12 areas of clear and grub with the area in square feet. Oh, I didn't include custom description. Well, let's do that again then. Thought I had included that. Let me do it again. So we move to the next, to the next. I did have custom description. Right there. So scale that back up. Oh, I did have it. Someone should have pointed that out. It's right there. So there's quickly how we can come up with some quantities for this. And now if I wanted to do this and put it on a sheet for production purposes, I can simply come back in here, and I have one set up to go here, so I can load that. So let me come here. I'll do my paper space removal legend. Again, you would probably want to put that in a central location. I don't need that checked. We can include external references to count things. We can do it by individual layout. And then if it's partially visible within the layout there, or if we say to do this and then say include paper space, if we want to put some keynotes or what have you in our paper space to point things out, we can include that and that only. So let me jump on to next right here. I'll hit my refresh and next, and everything should be set to go. Count, description. I want to, okay, that's the right order. We can order these however we want, by the way. I need to show you that. And we can slide them around. Count if we wanted this to be, let's say we wanted that at the end. So let me hit finish. Oh, that's from the viewport. I thought it snuck in there on me. Let me do that again. So I didn't click in the drawing to get it in there. But next, 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 and finish. And boom. So now we see our hatch came in better. We've got better scaling on there, but we can also arrange how we want these to go. If we wanted the symbol to be at the bottom, for instance, let me show you quickly how that gets done. Then I think that's all we had for today as I do that, as we march through here and getting a little long on time. So if I come here and I can reorganize it here. So this is where we reorganize things, slide our tabs, put our columns And this darn parcels is checked again. So let me drop it in underneath here so we can see the difference. So there you see it went to the bottom. And again, we don't have any parcels, so nothing got populated here. So it doesn't hurt if it's checked and there's nothing there, but we can see that this dropped in there. And I did make my tree symbol a little larger. You can see this one matches at the drawing scale right there. So that's a little bit of part one right here, and things we can use to help expedite our drawing production. So with that, we'll conclude that it's part of our CTC CIM Project Suite of tools. Like I said before, we're now at version 24.5. We also have our Manager Suite of tools, also at 24.5. So if you don't have it and you want it, you contact your local reseller. If they're not offering it, contact us here at CTC Software. We'd be happy to help you out. And as always, if you have any ideas or need help, please contact support. Our tools are built for you, the user, and we will take any accommodations for a wish list, improvements, what have you. So with that, I'm going to conclude with a thank you